And hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we bring you the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. And certainly a lot of exciting things happened over the past week. We'll catch you up on all those things, and I am so pleased to announce we have a full house on board this morning for the podcast. As we got I'm trying to remember back the last time we had a full house. It's maybe a month or so. It's been a while. So
it's not last week.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago?
Not last week. Yeah, not last week.
I'm trying to remember 2 weeks ago. I was in briefly and then was over at the Yum, I think, wasn't I?
Oh, right.
And then was kind of in and out. So I guess technically I was there. But in any event, we've got everybody here for the full duration today, knock on wood, as far as I know. So let's get right on into the kind of introductions and stuff. I'm your co-host, Paulie. I spent a week battling a stomach bug, going to a basketball game, and cleaning up an elementary school. Yahoo. That was my life last week. Got Jared Anderson in there with us, and Jared's not banking today, which means that he's not throwing snowballs at people who want to come in the store or the bank instead of hitting the ITM. And who's shoveling the lot today, Jared, now that you're not there and there's snow on the ground?
No idea. I don't have to worry about it anymore.
There you go. Are you going to still keep your debit card? You know, just like if you need to. Well,
yeah, I'll still keep my accounts and everything up. And for those who haven't heard, I have accepted a new position, and I'll be moving to Kentucky Farm Bureau. So those Saturdays at the bank are now a thing of the past.
If you can do one thing with Kentucky Farm Bureau, see if you can change that TV commercial they've got where they go, big on commitment. That's the only thing I want you to do when you're there.
Hey, I'm more than happy for them to put me on their marketing team if they want to.
There you go. The market may never be the same once Jared enters it. Got Daryl on board with us today. Daryl got a crash course in formatting Friday. Yes, you did. This is Daryl.
I'll be adding that to my resume, Paul.
Absolutely. Was explained the formatting. Still don't get it. Open for options. But, they had a very good Friday write-up, and was looking through it when I was looking through it for, just minor corrections and adding pictures and stuff like that. I said, okay, it looks great. Let's go ahead and publish it. I publish it, and boom. All of a sudden, there's all these white spaces in the article. So I immediately threw my hands up in the air and said, okay, it's time to call the IT guys. And got to try to get Jeff and Case involved in it. I think Case eventually came in and straightened it out.
Yeah, he beat me to it.
And in addition to that, Case totally confused me on our group chat the other day, where he told me that he had found out about the first softball shoe of the season. And I was thinking, oh great, I get to see an example of what the Louisville Cardinal softball team is going to wear this spring. But it turns out to be, it's a different type of shoe. Case, please explain, sir.
Well, I'm so used to posting tweets in my Discord with my friends or in iMessages, and the tweet preview comes up so you can see it. And I've fallen into that habit in our group chat, and I post a tweet without any context and forget that it doesn't provide a preview for people. So you guys just don't know what you're doing, click on it, and then it's not at all what you expected. So it was the first softball shoe to drop, with Miranda Elish opting out of this season. Softball player of the year last year, and likely candidate for it this year from Texas, will not be playing. So no softball cleats announced yet that I'm aware of. But that was the first shoe to drop in spring sports. Seeing the same thing that all the other sports have been seeing so far.
And here I thought you'd become a fashionista and were going to show me, different types of shoes I could wear to softball this year. Oh, well, enough on that. Jeff McAdams in-house. Jeff was usually the first one on board for our Saturday morning podcast as he gets everything set up and everything. And not a very eventful week for Jeff, it turns out, right, sir?
No, it's been, been doing work and typical stuff, and nothing out of the ordinary this week. It's just been a week. Can't complain, but nothing super exciting either. I don't know, but after 2020, I'll take it.
There you go. Life goes on. It sure does. With our introductions out of the way, we go to the next segment of our show here, where we traditionally go through our scheduling and Twitter information. It's kept Case hopping, trying to keep up with all the things that have been going on scheduling-wise, but he always comes through. So, Case, the floor is yours. Tell us what's happening, buddy.
Yeah, so the schedule looks pretty full. A little bit deceptive, though, because they sometimes leave canceled or postponed events in their original slot. That's the case with women's tennis, who was supposed to open their season this week with an invitational at Notre Dame from Friday through tomorrow. That was canceled, but like I said, it's still on the calendar. One thing that has been going on all this weekend, or since yesterday anyway, is the McGravy Green Invitational in Lexington at the Nutter Fieldhouse, hosted by Kentucky for track. And it only says track, but it's track and field because we have some results from field events yesterday. Like I said, that started yesterday. For some reason, it's listed on the schedule twice today. Just going to be going on the one time. Men's basketball is at Miami tonight at 8 p.m., a game that I just found out about when I was scrolling on Twitter this morning, because that's how things are with basketball schedules that I can hardly keep up with on regular seasons, much less one where the games change seemingly every 3 days. Men's golf is taking on probably a host of teams at the Seminole Invitational in Watersound, Florida, hosted by Florida State, most likely. Speaking of Florida State, women's basketball taking them on at 3 p.m. tomorrow in the Yum Center. That one's on ESPN2 because it was originally supposed to be the NC State game. I can't imagine that ESPN would have given women's basketball versus Florida State the time of day, given the situations that things are in. They'd probably rather air something else at 3 p.m. on a Sunday, but they had the time slot and Louisville filled it with a game, so they're going to play it. That one, like I said, is on ESPN2 or 790 if you're a radio person. The men's golf event continues on Monday and Tuesday, and men's basketball hosts Florida State on Monday as well at 7 p.m. on ESPN. So it is Cardinals versus Seminoles weekend, apparently. Wednesday is an off day, and then women's basketball will hopefully get their chance at their 13th game and tournament eligibility coming up on Thursday when they host Syracuse for a nightcap at 9 p.m. That one's also on ESPN2 in the Yum Center. And then track scheduled to head to Blacksburg for the Hokie Invitational starting on Friday and going through the weekend. So that's that. That's the calendar. I guess technically men's tennis is taking on Bellarmine at home at 11 a.m. on Saturday, but we'll be on the air at that time, so maybe we'll mention it again. I'm the schedule keeper, so it'll be up to me to do what I want. From a Twitter perspective, I tweet is at best case scenario. That's BST case scenario. Was following along with the NWSL draft on Wednesday. I think those are my most recent tweets. Didn't win the lottery today, so that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. We'll have to go into work on Monday anyway. Jared tweets is at Mr. Anderson Jared, where you can follow along with all of his photos that we love to rant and rave about because he takes great photos and gets opportunities that not a lot of other people get. Paulie tweets is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio and at Jeff McAdams. And Daryl tweets is at Daryl Faust 4. And as always, follow along with the Twitter list on the right side of the site to keep up with all of the UofL women's athletics pages.
And there it is. Another fine job by Case there, and had it done before 11:10. So with the schedule picking up, you got it all down in good time. So, and also, just to think about Jared's pictures, it does a fantastic job on those, Jared. I just want to kind of thank you for those. They're great additions to the articles, and I'm sure that the visiting schools that need those appreciate the work that you do. And last but not least, UofL, of course, probably very thankful that you're in there doing that.
Oh yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity, and every game that I get to go take pictures at this year is just a blessing with what's going on.
Indeed, it is. And also just kind of reminder that if you want to keep up on the daily activities of UofL Women's Sports, certainly go to our website, cardinalcouple.com. That will fill you in, as we have 5 writers on there, and we kind of alternate around where you get a different viewpoint and different take almost every day of the week. So certainly we invite you all to jump on in, make a comment, kind of read what's going on. If you disagree with us, that's okay. Fine. We don't claim to be perfect. We're just at 95.5%. So
Sometimes we even listen to criticism and don't write about soccer 2 Saturdays or in a row during basketball season. Sometimes. You never know what you're going to get when you comment.
every once in a while we get the kind of person that can comment in there, that's for sure. And just but that's all part of it. We don't ban, we don't censor people, we don't do stuff like that. If I don't like what they put in there, I'll just go ahead and delete it, but they're free to come back again. Haven't had to do much of that lately, and fortunately the bots have been pretty much non-existent on the comment section. So good, like all that. But let's jump on into it. Got a lot of sports to cover today, a lot of things to talk about. And let's go ahead and start it out with women's basketball. They had 2 games in this past week. They got it started on the 10th against Clemson. Coming into the KFCM Center, a Clemson team that was 8-4. Coming in to try and see if they could take on the 10-0 Cards and beat them. Didn't quite happen for them. They kept it close in the first half, but Louisville kind of pulled away in the final 2 quarters to get this win, take this game, and improve to, of course, still undefeated and number 1 in the conference. I won our predictions.
I was gonna ask. I don't even remember what I said. What did I say?
You guys were pretty high up there on the echelon as far as what your picks were. All of y'all were in the 80s, and the final score was 70-45 Cardinals, of course. Louisville getting that win, but yeah, you guys were all in the 80s and 50s and stuff like that. I think I was the only one. I had a plus-minus margin, I think, of 13, which isn't too bad. So.
I can't believe Clemson only scored 5 points in the 4th quarter.
Hey, don't complain about it.
Yeah. That's an embarrassing thing for them. Is they went 1 for 20 in that quarter. It was kind of rough on them. And you got to feel for players like Kendall Spray, who she's out there trying. She was 0 for 7 from 3-point range. Played a long time, 27 minutes, ended up with 2 points, and used to be one of the primary factors for this. But a good win for the Cards, a win that I think most people expected, or maybe some didn't even expect it to be a 25-point win. They expected it to be much larger, but Clemson kept it close in the first half and actually won the second quarter, Jeff. Something that was kind of painful to sit there and watch, but at least they got the game in, because you know what? This thing was originally scheduled to take place early at noon and didn't go until 2, sir.
Yeah, it was delayed a couple of hours, and even at the 2:00 tip time, not all of UofL's players were out on the court yet. Some of them trickled out over the first quarter. There was a COVID scare. The report was that we had a player who woke up not feeling well that day. So they did an extra round of testing to be careful and be sure. And, to certainly respect that and understand that. It had, all of us fans on the edges of our seat on whether we were going to get to play the game or not at all.
Jared was actually got down there a little bit before I was scheduled to get down there. I got his kind of tweet to me that they've moved the game back. And I woke up feeling kind of rough, to be quite honest with you, on Sunday. And as the day progressed, I started feeling worse. And so decided not to attend, but Jared was keeping me in touch of what was going on down there. So Jared, break it down to us. Jeff Wallace was kind of perturbed on the ACC protocols on this, right?
Yeah, thanks to modern day technology and social media, able to reach out to a majority of the fans that were planning on head down to the game to reach them at a reasonable time. I know that the announcement came about 15 minutes before doors and gates were opening up, so that may have been a little tough for people who got there early. But as soon as the announcement was made, I think we were all kind of in that same boat of assumptions, thinking, well, this is probably going to be COVID related. If they're going to call it safety measures, I think is what it was, team safety. And then by getting down there, just seeing a few of the players warming up on the court, which the players will kind of come and go early on warming up anyway, so that's not always a big issue. But then when you get close to the team intros and the anthem, and you're only seeing 7 players out on the court, at that point you can sense the panic coming from fans throughout the court. And we didn't really have a lot of bigs out there either. So then you're looking at the concern of what if I think Liz Dixon may have been the only big that was available for a tip-off. And you're thinking, what if she gets in foul trouble early on? We're in big trouble, or just foul trouble in general when you're starting 7 players. But then as the quarter progressed, you'd start seeing a player roll out of the tunnel every 2-3 minutes. And I'm sure that's as they were getting negative test results and they went to the back gym to loosen up a little bit, get some shots off. And you could start to just feel in the arena that everybody was getting more relaxed, and they would start cheering as players were coming out. And it was almost to the point that you would miss a player coming out of the tunnel just because it was happening so often. And then you'd see them checking the game. You're like, oh, well, there they are. So by the end of the game, or by halftime early, everybody but Alana Smith was out there. And based off of seeing her out on the court Thursday night, it's safe to assume that she ended up not having COVID-19, which we're thankful for.
Absolutely.
Who was it? It was Olivia, and who else came out? I forgot.
Ballard
Early on.
wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it may have been E and O that came out. Our vowels were coming out of the tunnel there.
The vowels.
Well, isn't that just crazy the way that, like, we're making this season work? Just the fact that you have players running out 3 minutes into the game starting because they were waiting on a positive or a negative test. I mean, if Jeff didn't have enough things on his plate, I think he does now.
Right, let's just add to the stress and the pressure. And if
Yeah.
you're on Clemson's side, you're thinking, oh, we only got to go up against 7 players today. Well, let's just see if we can't get them in foul trouble and push them early on. So as
Right.
a Clemson player, you start seeing other players coming out of the tunnel, and I'm sure there's some frustration and maybe some bad words
Dang it.
uttered under your breath that you're like, man, now we got them coming out too. Come on. So it probably not the greatest sight for Clemson to see players continuously coming out of the tunnel.
I realize that, it's just the way of the game this year, but part of me feels like that shouldn't probably breaking a little bit of rules. But I know it's
Yeah.
not this year.
For sure, that could be a little weird and just deceptive, I guess is a good way to put it. But you'd have to go and dive deep into the rule book to see what's permitted and what's not, I guess.
A contest where the Cards had to obviously alter the starting lineup a little bit as Elizabeth Dixon got the start, and also Mikasa Robinson. Mikasa getting the start as Olivia and E were kind of waiting clearance where they were hanging out over in the second gym at the KFCM Center. People maybe not familiar with that, but there is a practice gym which is off the hallways back there where teams can kind of stay warm and kind of wait things out. So they eventually did get the chance to come out though, but Case, one of the things that impressed me about this is no matter who we have out there, we still get some good play, even with Dana Evans sitting out the entire second quarter due to foul troubles.
Yeah, it's something that we've talked about a lot throughout this entire season is the depth that Louisville has at the guard position. 23 minutes, I believe, is the fewest that Dana has played this whole season so far. But we did see some people step up and get more minutes than usual. Mikasa Robinson got the start with E being in the locker room, as we mentioned at the beginning of the game. She ended up with 24 minutes, which is well over her average. And then Norika Kono picking up 17. She's averaging around 11 minutes a game, so she helped to pick up that slack as well. Then Van Lith putting in 35, Kiana Smith putting in 35. Both of those players not used to getting quite that many minutes, but everyone there to pick up the slack, like we mentioned, with that really excellent guard depth that Louisville has, and they put it on display against Clemson, never yielding the lead in this one, despite just a 2-point lead at the end of the first quarter. So a great job by everyone filling in that role when it seems to both us as Louisville fans and then the national media that this team revolves around Dana Evans. So to see Louisville really succeed without her on the floor is very encouraging going forward.
One of the interesting sidelines of this game, sidelines if you were, was the strange case of Delisha Washington, who got rather perturbed about some on-court jostling and proceeded to having to be separated from the Cardinals center Elizabeth Dixon, sent to the sidelines, pulled from the game, getting into a shouting match with her coach and one of her assistant coaches. Jared, you were down there.
I thought it was Balogun.
Was it Balogun? I thought that it was Elizabeth Dixon.
Not
So-
all that
And
important, but yeah, I thought it was Balogun.
I don't remember any of that. They weren't showing that on TV.
You were down on courtside, Jared. You saw it. What was going on down there?
Yeah, sometimes you get a good angle from where you're at, and sometimes you're blocked by everybody on the court. I saw it after the technical was issued. I kind of started to get a really clear shot, and I think Paulie Bay posted that one picture of the official trying to separate some of the players, and you could just see the anger in her eyes there. And I'm not sure what initially started that and what kind of like led up to the technical there, but things definitely got heated more after that, to the point that, as you mentioned, their head coach needed to pull her off the court and put her in the back row and have a little talk and say, look, this is not how we're going to be playing our season. This is not Clemson basketball. This is not how we're going to represent ourselves. You're going to calm down, and when we feel that you're ready to go back out there, we're going to put you back out there. And I think that was a good move, good decision by their coach. And sometimes players just need a moment to cool down. A lot of stuff happens on the court, and there's fouls that don't get called, and there's fouls that do get called, and there's words that are sometimes said, but it's basketball. You can't let your feelings get hurt. I mean, you're going to get bumped around, and someone's going to say something. You just got to rub it off and keep playing. Don't let it affect you, because once you can get into someone's head, then it's over for you.
Yeah. That being said, I think the technical foul call on it was pretty crappy.
So what actually led up to the technical? That's the part I couldn't see from my
Yeah,
angle, but
so
maybe the cameras picked it up better.
They
the
were
TV cameras.
walking past each other, and you know how players will sometimes bump into each other when they're walking past, and that's what happened. Washington kind of threw her arm out after that happened. Didn't really make contact with anything, but just kind of push away sort of thing. Unless there was language there that you don't get on the TV. I can't see how that should have been a technical foul. Yes, if you're an official, you walk over to her and you speak some words to her. Say, hey, chill out, right? But that was the first indication of any sort of real chippiness between these teams at all. It was an isolated incident. You walk over and say, hey, chill out, and you let the foul go for at least the first one like that. It was not an egregious action, I don't think.
So was it like the exact same situation as the technical foul in the Boston College game? Because that one was even weaker, I feel like.
Yeah, that one kind of came out of the blue there.
Yeah.
That one definitely came out of the blue. That wasn't actually a technical foul, though. That was just a flagrant foul, I think.
It was initially called on court as a technical. They went over to the review booth and spent a good portion that they were playing the Jeopardy theme song on loop for a while before they made the decision. I guess they called it as like a flagrant or intentional or flagrant one. I forget how some of their language and verbiage goes now, but they lowered it away from a technical foul there.
As it happened out, the Cards ended up having 11 available for the game, with Alana Smith not participating. All 11 played. 8 Cardinals seen 17 minutes or more, led by Kiana Smith, 17 points. And once again, another strong rebounding performance from 5'8" Haley Liff, who had 9 rebounds. Certainly a great effort from her as well, as she, 9 rebounds, 7 points. That's not a bad effort from the freshman at all. I don't know. It's kind of kicking her head at the table. What did the Cards learn out of this game? I think one thing that they did maybe pick up all started at is you don't take anybody for granted, because Clemson definitely gave Louisville all they wanted in the first half. This score being 34-26. What did you see out of it, Jared?
It's kind of like just a slow-moving game, and I can't tell if the players were just tired or they were off. There's a much heavier presence of defense, so sometimes just getting that extra hand in someone's face could make a difference. But I thought the teams just came out slow and sluggish for a little bit before things started to get rolling, and didn't really pick up. Like out of nowhere, the offenses got hot and nobody played defense by the end of the game. I mean, the fact that we were giving up that much to Boston College was a little rough.
Yeah, the Cards got out-rebounded Case 43-41 from Clemson. They really was not a dominant center in there. You take a look at the stat lines, and Gabby Elliott had 8 rebounds for them. She was the leader for them. But once again, the Cards having just a little bit of trouble on the boards, except for Haley, huh?
Yeah, Louisville only gave up 11 second chance points, but they only got 9 of their own. So both teams, despite pulling down 21, to Louisville's credit, they allowed 21 offensive rebounds, which is terrible, but only gave up 11 second chance points. They only got 10 of their own and got 9 points off of it. So they won on the second chance points efficiency battle, but it's only because Clemson couldn't make any sort of shot to save their life. They went 0 of 19 from 3. A lot of those were pretty open. Louisville was not playing the greatest three-point defense. So they just got lucky that Clemson has been unable to buy a basket from beyond the arc for the last 3 games. Kendall Spray on a 3-game over streak, which is not what Clemson needs. But outside of that, they went 19 of 51 from 2. So they were terrible there too. Clemson just couldn't buy a shot. And Louisville did have 9 blocks. So you can credit that for a lot of those misses. But on the other side, Louisville's really got to not allow so many shots. 70 field goal attempts is a lot of field goal attempts to allow. And Louisville just was lucky that Clemson didn't score more points, to be honest.
Lucky indeed, but as I like to say, a W is a W. The Cards got the W and then moved on to Thursday night when Boston College came to town. A Boston College team that was 5-5 and 1-5 in the ACC, coming in here to the KFC Yum Center. A player who we all kind of recognized as maybe being the top of their program, Taylor Soule, didn't do much against us. Only 9 points, only 3 rebounds in 28 minutes, Jeff. She wasn't the factor that we all thought she would be, was she?
No, this was a weird game. Just in general, some of the players that we thought would step up and have big impacts on both sides of the court didn't, and you had some other players step up. And as you mentioned, Taylor Soule, you previewed this much better than I did and researched it. But Taylor, not a big factor in the game. So it's 9 points total, 3 from the field, 6 from the field, 3 from the free throw line. I would have expected her to do better.
Foul trouble being once again a problem for Daryl. You had the write-up on this. With Cards had 5 in double figures, the 5 starters. That's always great to see, isn't it?
Right. Gosh, really packing the stat sheet in that one. But I wanted to first point out, I wanted to say for what I learned from the Clemson game was that the Cards can still win despite Dana Evans not being on the floor as much as she usually is, or having that big of an impact. He said, she had foul trouble, but also she turned it over 4 times, which was the most on the team. So I learned that the Cards can win without her, but it's a lot more fun when she takes over a game. And she definitely did for a few minutes there on Thursday night. I put it in the write-up for Friday that there was one point where she had 7 points, a steal, and an assist in 1 minute span. And, when she takes over a game like that, it's a lot of fun to watch because she gets in her zone. And, she didn't even have the most minutes on the floor. It's crazy because, Kiana Smith and Haley Van Lith are, usually logging the most minutes for the Cards. And Haley was out for a little bit. And, but Cards were able to find offense in other ways. That third quarter was insane. The second and third quarter are so different from each other because the defense was there in the second quarter where the Cards, or both teams, were only able to log, let's see. Oh, I'm still looking at Clemson. Oops. 16 for the Cards and then 12 for Boston College. But then in the third quarter, it was 26 for the Cards, 28 for Boston College. So defense there in the second quarter, offense not. And then third quarter, offense on fire, defense not. So Coach Wallace was a little upset with the defense there and the offense. Actually, I think he said, despite scoring 89 points, he still thinks it was a bad offensive performance for the Cards, which just shows how talented he thinks they are.
I think Boston College would have gladly accepted 89 points on their side. But Case, let's take a look at another kind of sidebar of this game where we saw 2 starters get injuries. Haley Van Lith with the dislocated finger and Kiana Smith with the sprained ankle. It's kind of tough when you see 2 starters have to go out, one didn't return.
Yeah, Smith's was really concerning watching that on the replay or during the game when she went down. Looked like she was in a whole lot of pain. It was really good to see her be able to get up and walk in air quotes, I suppose, but hobble off the floor, being able to put some weight on it under her own power. It was a really concerning injury. Hope that she's able to get going again. I don't think we have any update on her status for tomorrow's game, but if she's missing, Louisville is going to be hurting. She's really stood out a lot since becoming a starter in that DePaul game. But Haley Van Lith, an absolute warrior. I think Daryl mentioned in the group chat the injury to her right hand. She is a left-handed shooter, so she had that going for her. But still, when you're trying to catch the ball, you're trying to dribble, you're trying to shoot, it's not like your offhand is worthless. So credit to her for coming back out and being able to continue to do what she did. And she still pulled down 5 rebounds in the game. Have to assume some of those came after that dislocated finger. And then put up 4 assists and a 4-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. I haven't looked at this, but I think that's one of her best of the year. So a really controlled game for her. Despite the injury. You mentioned Louisville had 2 starters go out to injury. Boston College had just some pretty bad luck with their starters. They had 17 team fouls, and 12 of them were between just 3 people. 2 starters, both with 4 fouls, and a third starter with 3 fouls. So when you've got 17 team fouls and 4 players make up 15 of those 17, that's just kind of bad luck. To a certain extent, sometimes you kind of hope that a foul that's maybe on 2 players gets called on the one that has 0 fouls, not the one that has, closer to fouling out and really being in foul trouble. So both teams had to play without their starters for a little bit, and to some capacity. And like Daryl mentioned, that third quarter just it really tightened things up a lot more. Louisville led by 14 going into that third quarter. But Boston College had a whole lot of momentum, and I think if they had been able to have more players on the floor, this could have gotten really interesting going into the fourth. Ultimately, Louisville was able to pull away. I think Boston College got it down to like 9, maybe 8-point game at one point before Louisville spread it back out. So
Yeah, I think it was 8 before Dana went on her run.
So a good job by Louisville to show some resiliency and put the team away when it seemed like they weren't going to go away.
Jeff, did we see the future Kylie Shook on the BC squad? The reason I say is that they've got a freshman in the name of Allie Van Timmeren, who only got on campus during the Christmas break. Is that mere 18 years old, put in 29 minutes, 7 for 13 from the floor, 3 for 6 from three-point range, as the 6'3" freshman ended up with 17 points to co-lead the Eagles. A very impressive performance for her, sir.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you get a big like that. It's got the height and length that then can also, run out to the three-point line and bury some threes on you. It makes it a challenging scout for sure. We saw when Kylie Shook was here that she had occasionally some struggles making her presence known inside the paint, given her size, relative to her size anyway. I don't know how well Allie Van Timmeren is going to be able to manage that as well, but certainly that ability to step out, to be able to be a threat at three, pulls your defense out, which opens up that floor for so many other things going on. So it's a potentially very powerful aspect to the Boston College game for the next few years.
Paul, that's hilarious that you said Kylie Shook, because I'm pretty sure I said it out loud too. I called her a Kylie Shook wannabe.
Well, I was very impressed with the way she played, and certainly, the only thing that she really didn't do anything on was blocks, but she made plenty of turnovers like Kylie used to do back before she became a senior. Was hitting the ball out there. A couple things and numbers here, Daryl, that stood out to me in this game, and you can kind of elaborate on these a little bit. Louisville was 11 for 13 from the free throw line. You've got to love that number right there. And the Cards shot 56.7% for the game. They were actually over 60% in the second half. So 2 win-wins there as far as I'm concerned, eh?
Yeah, that's great. You'd like to see a few more attempts, but, if you only missed 2 on the night, Olivia Cochran had those, but she did have the most attempts for the team, and, she gets better every game. I know I tweeted it the other night, like, I'm a Haley Van Lith enthusiast, but Olivia is so close to being my favorite player right now or new player anyways. Dana will always have my heart. But you could see this chemistry between Haley and Olivia already, and I mean, what are we, 12 games in? It's so much fun to watch, and since they were able to keep Boston College off the free throw line, because I think they showed a stat prior to the game that if Boston College does win, it'll be from the free throw line. When they attempt 20 some odd or something like that, they usually do win, and they only had 10 on the night. So it was a great showing as far as fouling the other team, as well as getting to the free throw line and making their own shots. But you'd still like to see a few more out of there, out of the Cards for the future, anyways.
Surprising stat to me here, Case, was bench points. Thanks to Van Timmeren, Boston College took the bench points battle 25-10. Something we don't see very often. And secondly, I'm going to let you do this a little bit. Let's not get out of this game without giving Dana her due, Dana her credit. An incredible 24-point performance. 3 threes in 34 minutes. The Dana that partially disappeared because of foul trouble against Clemson was back with a new eyelash meanness, right?
Yeah, she did have a really good game. Only 3 assists, which is pretty down for her. But Louisville as a team was down. Only 16 assists on 34 made baskets. For people that follow along with the case report, they would have gotten no letter in the assist category. Turned the ball over too many times and just didn't assist on very many shots. To their credit, one of the stats that I just noticed that jumped out at me: Louisville pulled down 7 offensive rebounds. They scored 14 second chance points. So some of those could have been threes, but they statistically scored on every offensive rebound, which is insane. I don't know that I've ever seen a stat like that happen, especially in a game where
Yeah,
you know,
when you take a
they
look
didn't
at
shoot
Boston
70 from
College,
the floor.
Yeah, Boston College had 11 offensive rebounds, but their second chance points were only 12. So
Yeah,
look
but
at the college stats, fan.
back to Dana, she led the team with 2 steals. A pretty small steal night for the Cards. They were outstolen by Boston College 9-6, but Dana led the team with 2, just 1 turnover, 3 assists, like I mentioned, and 2 rebounds. That's not her forte. She's not grabbing the boards very often. As far as guards that do that, it's usually left to E and Haley Van Lith. But 3 of 3 from the free throw line, which is everything you want when she's going to get to the free throw line. You'd like to see her there more often, but you'll take what you can get. 3 of 5 from beyond the arc. Obviously, when she's hitting, that's what you need. She kind of drives the whole team. If she's having a bad night from beyond the arc, it seems like nobody else can get going either. Just kind of that contagious energy. But a great game from Dana, bouncing back from the foul trouble that kept her on the bench against Clemson, picking up just 1 in this game. So she is, as we all know, going to be the leader, continues to be the leader, will be the driving catalyst that pushes Louisville towards playing in the last 2 games in San Antonio, hopefully.
89-70 the win for the Cards over Boston College. Post-game, Jeff Walls, always exciting, never boring, as Coach lamented the fact that they only scored 89 points. He did not think it was a good offensive effort. Coach also said some language that Mama Walls wouldn't have approved of during his post-game interview. And we also found out that his favorite drink was vodka and tonic with a twist of lime. So, Coach sharing maybe more than we need to know about some things.
So was he upset about only scoring 89, or was he upset about how they played to get that 89? Because those are kind of 2 different thoughts.
I think he was upset that Boston College scored 70.
Yeah.
Once again,
I can see
that could be part of it too. Yeah, because Boston College wasn't averaging 70 points a game coming into this, a little lower than that actually. But Coach Walls, never boring, always entertaining.
Yeah, that's true for sure. There's no questioning that part.
Yeah, and that brings us with the Cards now at 11-0, 4-0 in the ACC. We'll go over the ACC standings real quick, and then we'll start kind of previewing the Florida State game next year real quick. As atop the conference, the Cards at 4-0, NC State at 5-0 in conference games only. Both of those are still undefeated. Overall, Louisville 11-0, NC State 10-0. Florida State on our heels at 3-1, but they are only 4-1 for the season and have been off since, what did we figure, New Year's Eve?
The 31st, yeah, I think.
Yeah. So the question here being, how will they bounce back after an extended delay? Look in terms of Louisville, obviously you're not as sharp after you've been out all that time. Syracuse only has 1 loss, but once again, they're only 2-1 in conference, 5-1 overall. They've been down with the COVID delays, and then it mirrors the other teams in the conference, basically. Georgia Tech 4-2, but they're only 6-3. Okay, they've had some issues. The team that has the most games in the conference here would be the Clemson Tigers. Clemson's actually got 12 games in. They've played 7 conference games, but only 3-4. Jared, just taking a look at this list and some of the things that are on here, are there any major surprises to you now that we're roughly, I guess, halfway through this schedule?
No, kind of looking down, I think maybe UNC isn't as great as we thought they would be this year. I mean, 7-4 overall still isn't bad, but 2-4 in conference play, it's not a mark that you want to hit. Other than that, it looks pretty straightforward. Not really a lot of big changes from what we saw in the past. Pretty common to see those top 3 with NC State, Louisville, Florida State all kind of battling up there for the top spot. And so instead of battling for first place tomorrow, now we're going to be in the battle for second place, because obviously a loss to Florida State would give them the tiebreaker over us for the 2. But I see a lot of potential NCAA tournament teams here, and I think a lot of them are just needing a key win right now to get in. But there's still, knock on wood, plenty of season and plenty of games left to be played. So we'll see.
And very true. And speaking of games to be played, Daryl, we got Florida State Sunday.
I know.
Some bad past memories, maybe, of FSU and FSU. Sue on the sidelines this year, though, taking care of an ill mother. So they've got talent. They've got a good team. It's just that they don't have games in, Daryl.
Yeah, and I'm looking at their schedule. It looks like they didn't even really get started till December, so they only played a month. They did win over Virginia Tech, though, which is supposed to be one of the hotter teams in the conference right now. But, them coming off a break, and Louisville is, they've kind of had Louisville's number in the last few years. I'm fully expecting the Cards to come out and really give them a good showing. This might be that game where everything starts clicking. I think the turnovers might be a little less than they have been. We want to get those back down to single digits. And let's say that the offense gets really, really up there, like in the 90s. So, yeah, it's a bummer that the Cards won't be playing NC State. I know a lot of people have had that game circled on their schedule. I know Cindy has been talking about trying to get out there for that one. You all know Cindy. But so Florida State it is. And I think they'll get winded really easy. We don't know. I remember the game against NKU when the Cards first came back, and we looked a little winded, and I think it was only like a 10-point victory, but it was close. And I know NKU's, they're a decent team, so that could be the reason that it was so close too. But I think that just coming back from their pause really, gave them a lot more, or just made it a lot closer. And I think this one, however, Cards are going to be able to score a lot and hopefully keep the Seminoles at bay. Remember that game against Notre Dame a couple years ago where it was like 100 to 70 or 60 or something? I feel like it has the potential to be something like that.
Yeah, the Irish got blown out by us a couple years ago.
And it was fun. It was so much fun to watch. Yeah. It was like every crazy shot was going in.
100 to 67, I think, was the score.
100 to 67.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Highlighted by that third quarter buzzer beater 3-pointer by
That's right. Yeah, I remember that.
I was thinking about Asia last night and how much I miss her. She was so much fun.
Yeah, certainly going to be a key for New York next year for sure. Mm-hmm. If she can come back and be 100%.
Be healthy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the key thing. You've got to be healthy to play the game. But FSU, let's look at their last game just real quickly. They did beat Virginia Tech by 10 points. They did that at Virginia Tech, which is pretty impressive. FSU had 4 players in double figures, very balanced scoring there. One of the things I think that kind of played true to form is that Asa Shepherd and Elizabeth Kitely had a big game against FSU, 21 and 16 points respectively there. Yet Virginia Tech only ended up with 63 points. So somebody must have been playing defense on the other 3 that were out there on the court, Daryl, huh?
I'd say so. That seems like the formula to, get the W.
You're going to let Kitley get hers and Shepard get hers and let everybody else kind of flounder right there. Jared, taking a look at this, are you kind of in agreement with everybody else here that the Cards probably will roll over a little bit winded and perhaps out of kilter, out of shape Florida State team?
I don't think it's going to be that easy, actually.
I knew it.
Well, more... he has to say that, right? If he doesn't want to sleep on the couch.
No, let's give him his
thankfully, thankfully, Katie's at her place right now, so she's not hearing anything I'm saying. But
she'll make you sleep on the couch anyway.
She just got a new recliner, so I won't complain on that one at all. But how many times have we thought we should beat Florida State, and then here it comes, and we're coming down to the wire, and we're like, wait a second, shouldn't we be up and about ready to put some of the reserves in and take the starters out, and then lo and behold, we end up losing. And it's happened the last 2 times we've hosted Florida State at home, we've lost. And then you look back in the ACC tournament last year, right before everything got canceled, we lost to them there.
That was the game that sent me home. Yep.
So you're saying, Jared, you think that the Florida State could beat the Cards 3 times in a row?
I'm saying it's possible. I'm still going to put my money on the Cards by winning by less than 10 in this one. And we still don't know the status.
We're rolling into prediction time now. Jared already teasing us with a little bit on this year.
But we also don't know
let's
the status of Kiana Smith. Don't forget about that part is we don't know if she's going to be good to go. And we did see Haley Van Lith come back out and play, but it's a little bit more difficult when you can only play with one hand as opposed to 2, and all you need is just one deflection off.
She didn't play with one hand. She was handling the ball with her right hand. She was doing all the stuff with the right hand she needed to do with no real ill effect. She did all right with that. So I'm not too worried about Haley Smith. I am worried about Kiana Smith, or Haley Van Lith. I am worried about Kiana Smith, though. But
because Kiana's the concern, and I think Haley should be fine, but you never know if you bump into a player wrong and those fingers get bent or the ball hits him just right. I mean, it could knock her out the game for a little bit.
They're sore. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be sore. I also am not too terribly worried about Kiana Smith since we got like 87 guards that are all really good. But, it's a loss to have Kiana Smith gone if she doesn't play, but I don't think it's the end of the world for us.
We should beat Florida State. Now, we have the depth and the way we run the ball. Just Florida State always has that game plan to just shut us down. They find a way to slow down the offense and keep the games in like the 60s and 70s versus getting up in the 80s and 90s. And that's what's hurt us in the past. So we've just got to find a way to overcome that. We're a better team than Florida State. And I think if you look at them on TV and then you look at it on paper, we should win. And I don't know what it is. It's always about, we get to play Florida State, and just everything goes out the window. And I don't know what it is.
Case, I'm thinking one thing we don't want to do is foul Florida State. In their last outing against Virginia Tech, they went 21 for 22 from the free throw line. And as they like to say, that ain't too bad. That's 95.5%. So that's a key to me. How about you?
Well, definitely. I think Louisville has a very strong defense. They've shown that they can prevent teams from shooting well from the floor, and teams often do a lot of damage at the free throw line. Trying to recall exactly which team it was that we saw. Louisville really didn't allow them to get to the free throw line. It was kind of the only chance that team had to keep it close, and it didn't happen. So if Louisville can keep Florida State off the free throw line, that would be ideal. What concerns me about this game, and we know that their coach is not available, which probably has something to do with the bugaboo that Florida State has been to Louisville. Since Louisville joined the ACC, they've beaten Florida State twice out of 7 tries. It's concerning. The most that Louisville has scored against Florida State in that time is 79 points. That's it, 79. And the most outside of that win, a 79-69 win in 2015, I believe it was. Yeah, in 2015-16 season, the most outside of that they've scored was 68. So Louisville's going to have to come out. All of these games are knockdown, drag-out games. The 68-point effort was a big win, 68-49, I believe. That was when Louisville was on a big stretch in that 2017-18 season. Nope, not that one. 2018-19 season, when they were just beating teams by like 25 points every game because the defense just wouldn't allow any teams to score, including later the next week they beat Connecticut 78-69. So that was kind of an outlier game. All these games are knockdown, drag-out games. Louisville's really going to have to come out and assert themselves offensively, because if they don't, Florida State's going to hang around, because that's just what they do. And we've seen when Florida State hangs around, something happens in the psyche of Louisville's players, and the ends of those games just get really dicey. So if they don't score 90, which Daryl thinks they might, if they don't score 90, things could get interesting.
Going to lead to some very interesting game score predictions here. Since I won the game, point differential against Clemson, I'll go first. I'm going to give you a 77-71 Louisville win.
Woo. That's rough.
77-71 Cardinal win. For some of the reasons Case mentioned, also the fact that I think that no matter what we do, we're still going to be fouling the Seminoles a lot. They're going to keep it close at the free throw line. Jeff, let's go to you next. Give me a score.
Yeah, so, I mean, I do want to say that I contradicted Jared on a couple of things there, but overall I agree with him. I think the analysis is really good. Florida State has all the question marks right now, right? Coming off a 2.5-week break. You've got interim head coach right now. You've got just not many games played in the season so far. You don't have a lot of scouting. You don't have a lot of visibility into what they're going to do and how they're going to play. I'll give a prediction. You thought Paul's was bad. I'm going to say 73-64 for the Cards. Yes, UofL should win this. I think we're the better team overall. Man, I'm nervous about it.
Jared, Jeff's nervous. He's also contradicting everything you and I say. Well, that's not out of undertaking for Jeff. He does that every
It's on brand for me.
Yeah, that's par for the course, right? But, so he's going kind of even lower score than I'm going here. Jared, how do you seeing it?
I'm going even lower because I mean, Case broke it down even more than I did, and he brought in some of the stats. And when we play Florida State, it's not a high-scoring game. We just don't see that between Louisville and Florida State. But I definitely agree that it's going to be close, and there's plenty of reason to be nervous. I'm going to put the Cards at just barely winning, 65-61.
65-61 out of Jared.
That's brutal.
Shades of the ACC quarterfinal or semifinal tournaments from last year, except Louisville on top on that one. All right, in case you've had a chance to kind of reflect on all this a little bit, I'm saving Daryl for last year for good reason, but because I know Daryl's going to come in strong on this one. But Case, what do you got here? What's your score?
Yeah, it's tough. I've been trying to look at, Louisville's offensive performances. They've been really mercurial this season.
I like it.
They've got the really big scores, the 101 against EKU, 116 against DePaul, whichever thing stands out, 97 against Bellarmine, 96 against UT Martin. But outside of that, they've had 2 games that they scored more than 75 points. More than 74, actually. That was the first game against UT Martin, and then obviously the last game against Boston College. So a lot of times, Louisville's scoring average this season is really high, but it's because of those outlier games. And so the offense hasn't been as, light up the scoreboard as it seems that they have when you just look at the stats. And given the history against Florida State, I think that Louisville is able to kind of break this game open a little bit. But I just think that that's because of the reasons we talked about. Florida State is coming off of a decently long layoff, almost 3 weeks, and they haven't been, world beaters on offense this year. The most they've scored is 81 in their season opener against Florida. That's a rivalry game, so you can pretty much toss that out the window. And then the most they've scored since starting conference play is 73 against Virginia Tech in that last game. So I don't think that they can really hold up against Louisville's defense, especially if Louisville can get out to a hot start and maintain that through, the first 15 minutes of the game. I think Louisville will be able to score about on their secondary average, not really their true average number of points, but somewhere on their secondary average. So I'm going to say Louisville wins this game 75-63. I think it's a decent win. It's maybe gets nervy at times, but I think that's about where we land.
Another low score in the books here. Case is 75-63. Last but not least, we come to Daryl, which I'm sure will have a great take on this one and a score.
Well, so I'm going to stick with my gun and say that Florida State's coming off their break. They're going to be winded in the early third quarter. Are you ready for my final?
Bring it.
I say it's the Cards' 7th game in 17 days into the new year, and I think they're just going to be hitting it. I think it'll be 91-66.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Shocking in the other way.
Daryl gives us the highest out of the 5 predictions for Cardinal points, and actually falls in line kind of with the rest of us, and everybody's thinking FSU is going to struggle to get out of the 60s, except for me. I think they get 71. And they, so there it is. We'll find out on this one. We've certainly got some room for differentials on this contest for sure. But we spent so much time on basketball, and we didn't hardly get to anything else really that happened this week. But we'll just kind of go through them kind of rapid fire here before we get to final thoughts. First of all, Racing Louisville FC, Amina Ekic with the pick. Case, go.
Yeah, great to see them make the right choice and keep her in Louisville. I thought that going into Wednesday, I thought she'd definitely be available at that 11th pick. I thought they'd go elsewhere for their second pick in the first round with number 5. But then once the draft started, one of the talking heads listed Amina Ekic as one of their underrated players coming into the draft. It seemed like offense was kind of at a premium after Louisville took Emily Fox with their first pick, a defender, and then it was kind of rapid fire offensive players. It looked like Amina Ekic was definitely going to be on people's lists. It was really concerning when Racing Louisville was on the clock with that 5th pick. They called timeout, picked up the phone. It seemed like they might be trying to trade out. I was like, please do not do this. Please don't trade out and then somebody else take Amina Ekic. But then they took her. It's great. She's thrilled. I'm thrilled to be able to continue watching her. I've really enjoyed it while she's been at Louisville. She's excited, obviously, to be able to pursue, the highest stage of her craft in her hometown and play in front of all of her friends and family. I think that's awesome whenever any player in any sport gets that opportunity. So congratulations to her. And those were really cool pictures that came out on her first day with the team, with her down at the stadium in Minas City, and it's going to be really fun. I think Racing Louisville is going to be a really fun team to watch, and obviously taking a hometown hero is definitely a great way to garner more support in the area.
Gotta agree with you 100% on those, buddy. Jeff, we got volleyball news. Not a coach, but a very, very nice addition to the team, sir.
Well, yeah, kind of a coach. I was actually going to make this my final thoughts. You're kind of jumping ahead of me here. Jewel Meredith was graduate assistant for the past couple of years for the team. She has moved into the volunteer assistant role, which is sort of a promotion. She may actually get paid less out of it, but interesting situation there. But it is a position of more prestige, more advanced on the career track of being a volleyball coach. She does a very fine job. She's been a great addition to the Cardinal sidelines over the past couple of years, and has been doing a lot of the video coordination interview, and kind of the graduate assistant is frequently kind of the techie of the coaching staff, and she has fulfilled that role very well, moving up into a volunteer assistant role, getting a little more hands-on with actually coaching and guiding the team on that. So good addition, good move. It's great to see. Always great to see promotions in-house like that.
You gotta love them. And Daryl, we got a softball schedule out now. How about that? As the Cardinals start action on February 13th, and guess where they're going to be the entire month of March? Out at Ulmer Stadium, by golly. Exciting news about softball, right?
Yes, it is, but we saw Case share some news about teams or specific players opting out. I'm sure in the next couple months we're going to see a few more of those, which, you don't blame them, but I'm excited to see this team. Who was coming back this year? I'm trying to bring it up real quick. Was it
Celine Funky to start with?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Celine. That's exactly who I thought it was. So Celine's coming back for what? What do they call it now?
It's just, I don't know, year 15 it feels like sometimes.
Super senior. You call that a super senior.
Yeah.
Super senior. I like that. Super senior season for Celine. I'm very excited for that. But so many things can change from now and then. I'm trying not to, circle any games in particular before we get there, but I'm sure the team's excited. Just having something to look forward to will make their training, I'm sure, a lot more productive. So as long as we get some games in the next couple of months, I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, she is listed as a graduate student at this point. So
graduate, gotcha.
Yeah. Which is not surprising because she's also a very good student.
Super Senior better. We should probably
Super
put
Senior is
that in the
good.
suggestion box.
Can I supersize that senior?
Yeah.
I like it. And I hope she has a supersized season. As May 12th, ACC tourney will be here in Louisville. Jared, do you think we'll get that far?
Ooh.
I hope. That's a long ways away. I mean, you're looking at after Derby at this point, middle May. So I mean, there's a lot that can happen between now and then. I mean,
we don't even know if Derby will be then, Jared.
Right,
it could be in September again.
Right. God forbid something happened where we just don't even see a season at all. At least when you look at sports like softball and baseball, one, you're outside. Two, there's minimal contact with people, especially the opposing teams. So you've got a few factors playing in your favor at this point. It's not like basketball where you're stuck indoors where the air may not flow as well, and then you're constantly all up against each other when you're competing down low for rebounds and the close shots there. I mean, the most you're going to see here is batter-catcher interaction or a play at first or just a play at any of the bases. So that really works out well, and I think it's going to be able to pinpoint if there's any positive cases and quickly get them out in a way. But I'm liking this setup by the ACC where you've got basically it's a 4-game series, and then you hope that if something happens with a positive case, then you can just be like, all right, well, let's get everybody tested and see if we're good to go for tomorrow, and maybe still fit in 3, possibly even 4 games. So it'll be nice. I'm excited, and hopefully we do get to the ACC tournament here in Louisville.
I just was questioning the other night when I was looking at this. How are you going to 6-foot space softball players in the dugout?
You don't.
Yeah, I can't see it unless they're up in the stands or whatever. So it should be interesting. But so other things that happened this week, we didn't quite get to everything that went down, but certainly we can all look forward to another exciting week ahead coming up for UofL athletics. Beginning tomorrow with the Cards hoops against FSU. Let's get the final thoughts. Let's go ahead and start with Jared this week. Final thoughts out of you, sir.
Just trying to keep up with the constant schedule changes and figure out who's playing who, when, and making sure I've got erasers attached to all my pencils right now because things are constantly changing. I don't think I've ever recall a 9 p.m. tip-off game, so I'm kind of excited to see how next Thursday goes, but also making sure I can find a way to get a nap in before the game.
Right.
Very important indeed, sir. Case, final thoughts?
Yeah, congratulations to 2 of the teams that are competing right now, which are swimming and track and field. Swimming in their non-scoring meet against Missouri yesterday had a relay win and then 6 individual wins, and then track and field with 3 individual wins yesterday on day 1. So congratulations to them as they get their spring seasons underway.
Absolutely, and let's hope they're successful ones. Daryl, share some final thoughts with us.
It's like everybody else. The schedule changing is, frustrating, but imagine actually having to play it and not just, watch it. So I'm proud of the way that the program has handled it. I'm glad we were able to get some games in. Coach Walls is a hardworking man. He wants to play the games and showcase this very talented team. And like Jared said, a 9 p.m. tip-off on Thursday. Hopefully, at least we get a game, but that'll be a late one, and I'll have the write-up after that. And I also want to give a shout-out to Lamar Jackson playing tonight. Ravens got to get the win.
It'll be cold in Buffalo and snow, and Lamar's never played on a snowy field in the NFL, so could be an interesting sideline there.
I hope the snow holds off.
Let's hope so, but it's Buffalo. What's the chances of that, right? Final thoughts out of me. I just want to send a little shout out, and we're thinking of you. We're in your corner to one of our regular readers and commenters over at Cardinal Couple, the illustrious Curtis Franklin. Unfortunately, has become a victim, not a victim, but a positive test on the COVID. He's into quarantine procedures now. He seems to think he's asymptomatic. He's not really suffering from everything. Was it a missed test? He even has that kind of question and doubt, but nevertheless, fortunately, he's got a very good family structure that's kind of making sure that food gets dropped off at his apartment, and also the co-workers where he works at as well. But Curtis, hang in there. We're with you, buddy. And you pull through this thing big time, okay?
Yep.
All right, Jeff. I left you last because I stole your final thought.
Yeah, that's right. It's a similar theme. I'm looking forward to seeing volleyball schedules starting to show up. We're starting to see a little bit of that, which is just kind of weird to think about, to be talking about in January, hearing about real volleyball schedules. But that's what we're dealing with this season, and so I'm hoping to look to see some and see what schedules are going to look like. With a partial season in the fall, it's going to be a little bit weird.
Yes, it is, sir. It's going to be madcap. But that'll do it for another edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast. We thank you all for listening. You can catch this on replay by clicking on the website, by following us on the Cardinal Couple YouTube channel. So a lot of different ways to hear this thing if you didn't catch all. But we'll see you next week, Saturday, 11 o'clock, unless you know something we don't. Signing out here. Everybody have a great weekend.